It was the summer of 2016, and I was going on a trip abroad to Belgium as part of my Master of Science program. I've never been particularly academic or considered smart growing up, so this was a huge achievement for me. I'm the youngest out of a family of 3 and grew up in Dublin, Ireland. Having an older sister with great academic and career achievements, I've always felt like college was just not for me, but when I was made redundant many years ago, I went back as a mature student. Anyway, my confidence soared as an academic woman whilst studying for this master, and I made many friends along the way. Something that was not as easy in my other degree program. I finally felt like I fit in, like I was going somewhere in life. Many of my classmates were not Irish. Some were Spanish, Indian, and mainly Saudi Arabian, something I felt made me feel more cultured and added to my sense of achievement. Everyone was very friendly, except for this one guy from Iraq, who tended to keep to himself. He wasn't hurting anyone, I thought, but that was until we went on this trip abroad. We took off on a 4 a.m. flight from Dublin Airport to Brussels, Belgium. Feeling academic, I purchased a psychology magazine as reading material for the 2.5-hour flight to Belgium. I met up with my class at the gate, and everyone seemed to be quite tired, but all in all in good spirits. The whole trip was a series of academic meetings and presentations in the European Parliament and other important EU/food science places. I thought of my late father and how proud he would be of me to get to go to an actual EU Parliament meeting. I thought of him often during my academic years and how he had driven me to come so far, further than I'd ever thought possible for someone who was not so bright. We took off on the flight with much amusement coming from my Saudi Arabian fellow students, mainly due to the restrictions at the Belgian airport. They had to take off their hijabs for the flight and for the trip. This was a new experience for them. Little did they and I know it would also be a horrible one. We landed in Belgium airport quite early because of the 6 a.m. flight. We had to go through very strict passport control because of a terrorist attack which had only taken place 3 months before there. My classmates and I went to a Starbucks to wait for the rest of them. I noticed that Iraqi guy kept eyeing myself and a few of the other Saudi Arabian ladies. This made us incredibly uncomfortable, but we didn't think too much of it. Maybe we were just paranoid, as we were truly exhausted after only around 2 hours of sleep. Finally, we were all through the security check, and we made our way to the coach that was taking us to a quaint student accommodation in the heart of Brussels city centre. We arrived, and myself and my classmate Teresa were delighted with the cute accommodation. Although we only dropped our bags off and went straight to our college meetings in the European Parliament. The first day we had 6 hours straight of different tours and presentations of the various food safety sections of the European Parliament. I was positively exhausted, and myself and Teresa fell asleep on the journey back to the accommodation. In fact, everyone fell asleep, except for the guy from Iraq. My classmate Teresa mentioned offhandedly, "Wow, Tommy didn't fall asleep." Let's just call him Tommy for now. How do you know? Oh, well, Lisa found out he had taken pictures of all of us on the bus asleep. Maybe for a joke? Oh, that's a bit strange, I said to Teresa. I didn't like how he took pictures of all of us without our permission. Don't you think that's a bit creepy? Yeah, I suppose so, she replied. Oh well, I'm gonna go back to my room, Teresa goes on to say. I suppose I thought I was being a bit melodramatic, so I pushed it to the back of my mind. That was until the following evening, when after dinner myself and my classmate Teresa wanted to leave the class group. Teresa had to phone her husband, and wanted to do it early due to the time difference between Belgium and Ireland. I was broke, so I thought it would be a good idea to go with her, instead of spending money I didn't have on Belgian beer and snacks. We were slightly confused about the trip back from this bar and the student accommodation. This was because we were bused to and from the different events, and we had walked with the group to this bar. Unsurprisingly, we bumped into Tommy. We weren't surprised because he didn't join the group for any of the previous lunches or dinners due to his halal diet. He was eating an ice cream. Teresa called to Tommy. "Hey, Tommy, where'd you get that? Looks delicious." I was trying to keep cool and possibly ignore him. He insisted on buying us both one, though. I couldn't help but feel that he looked a little bit too happy that we were talking to him. Also, that we technically owed him something. And can you help us find the student accommodation? We're a bit lost. I didn't stop her because, frankly, I didn't have a clue where to go either, as my sense of direction was extremely poor. He said of course and led us away from the bar with which our classmates and teacher were drinking beer, and had not even noticed we had left the group. Tommy led us down various winding roads, and after a certain point, they all started to look the same. We must have been walking for about half an hour, and we were horrified to find Tommy had brought us all around Belgium city center, then back to the bar we had just been at. What the hell? Why did he bring us around for half an hour and just bring us back to where we had started? I thought it was strange, but Tommy pretended it was a big joke, and he would bring us back to the student accommodation right away. We had no choice but to believe him, and eventually he did lead us back. We bumped into the group of Saudi Arabian girls who tend to keep to themselves due to their religious beliefs. They were friendly enough, though, and didn't ignore us. They began to chat with us about their experiences with Tommy. The previous day we were in a meeting in the EU Parliament, and they told me and Teresa that Tommy was pretending to film the meeting, but was in fact filming them the entire time, something that offended them because he was male, and this was disapproved of by their religion. I thought it was creepy even without the religious stigma attached to it. Oh my god, Tommy is so creepy. He shouldn't be filming you, especially without your hijabs. How disrespectful. He's getting a bit of a reputation, said the Saudi girls. I turned around, and who should I see in the foyer of the accommodation but Tommy? He called out to us. Hey, I was so nervous, I actually answered. Do you have a phone charger I could borrow? Yeah? Thanks. I can't seem to be able to find where to charge it, though. Crap, I thought, as Tommy gestured for me to come to him. He was standing at the door of his room, and I just thought, oh, it's just in the corner, Tommy, pointing to where it was. I didn't feel that scared, as the girls were all there in the foyer and would wait for me. I edged closer to Tommy, and he closed the door behind him. My heart dropped as this happened. What if he thinks I'm interested in him? I went to his room willingly, so it would look like I was asking him for anything that may happen after the door closed. When are we going to get together? Says Tommy. I don't know what you mean. He looked at me extremely confused, as I'd gone to his room willingly, and he was obviously expecting something. I spotted a quick chance to leave and sprinted towards the door. I'm really tired tonight, Tommy. Good night. I walked quickly back to my room. I was shaking as I finally closed the door behind me and questioned what had happened, if I was again being melodramatic, as he'd not actually done anything to me. It all happened so quickly, and I was feeling that usual "did I encourage him" kind of feeling. The next day, I told Teresa what had happened. I was ashamed, so I left out the part where I had gone inside his room. I didn't want anyone else to find out, so I played it down. Teresa thought it was very strange, even after I took out the creepiest part. You should tell all the other girls. He has a reputation. Remember, the Saudi girls were filmed by him the other day. I suppose that's true. He's a very intimidating man, though, and he's friends with our teacher, who is also in his 50s and a bit creepy himself. Teresa told all the girls what happened, though. They too had stories from their trip about Tommy's creepy stares, how he would ogle them if they were wearing a short skirt. Ew, at least I'm not the only one, I said to all of them. We traveled back to Dublin later that day, and although Tommy had creeped me out, I had enjoyed the trip thoroughly. I wanted to put this experience behind me, and never see Tommy again. Out of nowhere, though, I got this strange email. It was from Tommy, and I nearly dropped my phone when I saw what was in it. It was a series of pictures of myself, alone and with my other classmates who were female. They weren't posed pictures either. They appeared to be taken from behind a car. This is so creepy. How did he even get my email address? Then I received another email from Tommy. In broken English, it said something like, Ciara, I think I love you. I didn't know until the trip, and I never want to be without you. Please say it's true, me and you. If you feel the same, please meet me, and we'll travel to London from Dublin Airport. I'll leave my wife and children for you. I'll work in my brother's retail shop. I felt sick to my stomach. I didn't know what to do. There are not strict laws in place in Ireland as there would be in the USA and etc., so I didn't feel like the Irish police would take me seriously. That's awful. My husband will tell him to go away, says Teresa, but I knew I had to do something myself. Eventually, I had the courage to talk to someone in my college, as this was going too far. They took Tommy to a meeting and warned him that what he was doing was not okay. They threatened to take him off the course as well. I was relieved after that, and returned to my more confident and academic self. But Tommy, please let's not meet again, especially not on an academic trip. I didn't deserve to be put in that scary situation. This happened a couple of years ago, on January 1st, 2019. For context, I'm a female, 19 years old at the moment of this happening, and I was returning from a New Year's party at around 6 o'clock in the morning. A friend of mine had dropped me off a 5-minute walk away from my home. Being winter, it was still dark outside, but as it was technically early morning, I didn't feel very scared to walk alone, even if I was not living in the best part of the city. The streets, though, were empty, given that everyone was probably still recovering from the night before. Where I live, in an Eastern European country, it's very common for people to celebrate until the morning, then spend the 1st of January hungover or sleeping, so I was all alone. From where I was dropped off, I had 2 ways which I could go. One was a walk path that leads to an important well-lit street, and the other one was a walk on some dark and empty small streets surrounded by apartment buildings. So, naturally, I thought that going on the well-lit street was my best bet to safety. As I was walking, I felt very energized from partying, from meeting new people, and I was just feeling good listening to music while heading home. When I turned to my street, however, the hair on the back of my neck stood up immediately, without me even understanding why. For a better understanding, I'll explain the layout of my street a little bit. There are 2 rows of apartment buildings, one on each side of the road, a sign of a former communist country like mine, each having 2 entrances, one closer to the main road I was on, and the other one further away. The entrance leading to my apartment was the faraway one. As I began the walk to the door, though, I saw what had been unsettling me before. At the closer entrance, there was a man wearing jeans and a gray hoodie. It was very weird to me, because outside it was very cold. He had his hood up, and the only thing I vividly remember about his face was his beard, as it was half gray and half black. Another red flag for me was that he was just standing there, watching over the street, not smoking, not taking his dog out, just staring. He had no reason to be there whatsoever. Trying to push my anxiety away, I walked past that entrance and thought to myself as I was approaching mine that I must have been just paranoid. When I arrived at the door, though, something was screaming at me to look back, and so I did, and I almost had a heart attack. My heart is pounding just typing this. But from the branches of the bushes, delimiting the street from the apartment building's garden, I saw that same man, walking very quickly towards my entrance. I very quickly entered the building, and looked back outside through the door's window, mostly expecting the man to walk past the door, and me to laugh at myself for being so paranoid. My heart sank, as he turned right towards the door, still quickly approaching, and gazed directly at me. I froze, my hand still on the door handle. He grabbed the outside handle, and we both sat there, staring at each other for what felt like an eternity, until he opened his mouth as if to say something. But at that point in time, I wasn't interested at all. I turned around, beginning to run up the stairs because I was living all the way on the 4th floor. When I was on the first floor, I heard the door shoot open behind me, and I was scared shitless. I don't even know how I managed to run so fast and get my keys from my backpack at the same time. After I hopped inside my apartment, I locked the door behind me, panting and in tears. I thought that was it, just a creepy guy that wanted to rob me, or worse, who I had escaped from. But the story doesn't end there. That afternoon, I told my parents and my sister what happened, and told my mother and my sister to be careful, as they're petite females just like I am. Fast forward to almost a week later, when my sister comes back from dancing practice at around 10 o'clock at night, shaking and visibly upset. I ask her what's wrong, and she starts to ask me if the man that had followed me was wearing a gray hoodie, and if he had that same half-black and gray beard. After I confirmed, she started to tell me that as she'd gotten closer to our street, she suddenly had a bad feeling and was creeped out without an obvious reason. She asked her boyfriend and a male friend of hers that were with her to watch her until she arrived inside. Right after she said her goodbyes to her boyfriend and friend, and she started walking towards the door. At the entrance before ours, she saw the same man standing there, watching her. As she started to walk faster, the man started to follow her. However, unlike me, thankfully, she wasn't alone. Seeing what was happening, her boyfriend and her friend got out of their car, sprinting towards my sister. They caught up with the man and began to throw punches at him. Somehow, though, he managed to escape, and he ran away without ever saying anything. To this day, I don't even know what he wanted, but given the fact that he was following young girls when he thought they were all alone, I don't think he was up to any good. Besides that, which innocent man won't say anything after getting beaten up if he hasn't done anything wrong? I want to start off by saying that this is a longer story. It's a true story that took place in my life, and for privacy reasons I'll not name the company nor will I use real names. So this event took place on September 9th, 2019. I was working at a resort in one of the local national parks here in Alberta. At the time, I was employed full-time in the resort spa. I'm an esthetician and still am to this day. However, at that time in my life, this position was my dream job. I went to school specifically to land this position. After graduating, I was recruited by HR management to move into the resort where I would work and live full-time. I eventually made my way up to the senior esthetician spot, so it felt like life was finally beginning to fall into place. However, when it comes to working in a tourist-based town, there are quite a lot of pros and cons. You learn them along the journey. For example, when you accept a job offer, most times it includes staff accommodation, which is usually on-site or close by. You can accept this low-rated offer, or you can pay more to rent a room elsewhere. Either way, you'll have a roommate wherever you choose to go, especially in this town. Rent is doubled and tripled, depending on if you want to rent a room or a single-room apartment to yourself. Realistically, no one can afford their own place here, unless you're working 2 jobs minimum or splitting rent with a partner. Of course, I opted for the on-site accommodation option. The staff accommodations are located on the 4 lower levels of the hotel. I was fortunate enough to be on the highest floor, with a view facing the mountains. I could literally see the patio cabanas across the courtyard, peeking through the trees. That's how close I was to work. This also meant I would have roommates. In my assigned room, I had 2 single beds and a bunk bed. Yes, you heard that right. 4 girls to my room, and a small shared bathroom. I opted for the single bed closest to the window, so I would feel a bit less crowded. Transitioning was a bit difficult, because I'm very OCD and specific with how I like my home space organized and cleaned. This includes the bathroom. This plays into the incident that will unfold. During my stay at this resort, I had seen many roommates come and go, some for weeks, some for months. Keep in mind that the majority of the staff were young adults, passing through, going from resort to resort for the duration of their working visa time frame. I had the privilege to meet so many good and questionable people, some odd roomies and some that I'm still friends with to this day. And by the time September rolled around, I had been at this resort for 7 months. I still lived in staff accommodation and had recently gotten 2 new roommates that came together. One was mid-20s, around my age, and the other was in her 50s. We'll call the young one Shay and the older one V. They were hired to a temp agency to fill in for housekeeping positions. They both had a contract to fulfill 3 weeks. Shay's uncle owned and operated the temp business. From the first day, Shay mentioned that she did not want to be there. However, she was just helping her uncle out. I don't know what that means considering she got paid to be there. Anyways, Shay was very quiet, kept to herself, but was also a bit of a social butterfly. This means she was rarely in the room unless it was to shower or sleep. V, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. She spent more time in the room, so we were able to get to know each other a bit better. V adored Shay and treated her just like a daughter. One day, though, V asked me if I had noticed a change in Shay's behavior. To this I responded no, because I hadn't spent much time around her, aside from small casual talks before she'd head out for the night. Over time, though, I had noticed that Shay was partying a bit too much, hanging out with multiple different guys. Not surprised, since this town is kinda known for this type of scene. After all, it is a tourist party town. One evening, I was catching the bus back to the resort when I saw Shay get off the bus with a man I had never seen before. She approached me and said she was heading back to our room to drop off her shoes and her bag because she was planning on going bar hopping in town. At that remark, I offered to do it for her, since I was already on the way there. She was thrilled, handed me her stuff, and got off at the next stop. I didn't think anything of it and proceeded to go home. When I arrived at my dorm, I see V is already relaxing in bed watching Netflix, so I informed her of the events that took place. I placed Shay's belongings on her bed and did my nightly routine. Eventually, we both fell sound asleep. Come the morning time, V woke up at around 6 a.m. to get ready for work. I of course rolled over trying to shut out the noise. While V was getting ready, I hear her door open and realize Shay had finally returned after being out all night. She too has to work this morning, and immediately we can tell she's not sober. Not surprising. People go to work half messed up all the time here. V finally finished up in the bathroom, and Shay goes to have a shower. During this, I had fallen back asleep and was on call for the day because I had no appointments lined up. About an hour later, I'm awoken to V knocking on the bathroom door, asking Shay if she's okay. After a couple of minutes of this and little to no response from Shay, V says she's coming in. I can hear V asking questions. Are you okay? Why are you sitting in the shower? Are you almost done? Why is there blood on the floor? Things like that. V then realized that something wasn't right and came to get me out of bed to help her assess the situation. I immediately asked her to ask Shay if she was able to stand up. If so, get her out of the shower. She goes in to ask. Shay is still a bit coherent but slurring her words. Once V got her to sit up, she realized that Shay had sliced her legs, arms, and stomach open. The whole time she had been bleeding out in the shower. V immediately started screaming, crying, and asking her why she'd done this to herself. She immediately took Shay's phone and contacted her family. From here, we find out that she told her mom she'd taken an entire bottle of pills and had been doing drugs all night on top of drinking. I immediately kick into control mode and contact on-site security and tell them to call an ambulance and come to assess the situation. During this chaos, V was in the bathroom, holding Shay and using all our towels to contain the mass of blood and water all over the room. Everything happened so fast and lasted only about 7 minutes. In that time, a woman named Chelsea from HR, who was trained in first aid, came to help, as well as 2 security guards and 1 housing coordinator named Jay. I explained what was going on, and eventually the EMT arrived. They rushed Shay out of the room, and V went along with her to the hospital, since she knew more about her than I did. Once the chaos settled down, waiting to hear word back, I realized no one was coming to clean up the scene. HR and hotel management hadn't arranged a professional team to clean up this bloody mess. They hadn't even asked me if I was okay. I ended up texting Jay to help me clean up. He immediately showed up to my room with cleaning supplies. From here, we threw out all the blood-stained towels, disinfected the whole bathroom, and I even picked up and discarded the razors myself. At this point, I was extremely unimpressed with the manager's lack of preparation or participation in this situation. I thanked Jay and went about my day. Later on, V arrived back to the room and we chatted about what took place. Clearly, Shay was out of her mind, and something had led up to her making all these decisions. All the facts were based on her personal life. I'll not get into those details. The reality of this situation was that people can only pretend they're okay for so long before they lose control. In this situation, we hadn't realized or were aware of that spiral. She had never mentioned either. It took us all by shock. In the end, Shay survived and got the help and support she needed from her family. V also left home shortly after. However, I ended up staying 2 more months before quitting on the spot, moving out the same day and moving back to my city. After this, I had lost all respect for the management, alongside numerous unprofessional issues within the spa. I was completely fed up of bending over backwards for this company and their lack of efforts to maintain proper stability within the resort. Remember the next time you travel to a high-end, or any type of resort, to treat the staff with respect and warmness, because you never know what's going on behind business scenes or in someone's personal life. Also note that people like us working in resorts dedicate so much time and energy into delivering that 5-star experience for you, regardless of what's going on for us. I hope this story brings awareness to others to be vigilant and mindful, and also to be there for one another, especially when it comes to the people involved in your day-to-day life. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far into the end of the video. Thank you guys for sending in your stories and all your comments and support. It's really made me feel a lot better after all that stuff. I admit that maybe I panicked a little bit more than I should have because I had 2 strikes, but I think with the videos taken down and everything, that I'll eventually put back up after the strikes are gone. It'll probably be fine, but I still have my second channel there in the comments in case something does happen. I'm also gonna this week try to start posting videos on there as well. I want to read some stuff that's not as scary type of stuff on there, probably some web novels, and maybe do like some read-overs of like manga and stuff if anybody's interested in that kind of thing. Please be sure to like, share, or subscribe if you enjoyed the video and feel so inclined. If you do subscribe, make sure to hit that bell and click the all so you can be notified of all my new upcoming videos. Please be sure to leave any feedback in the comments below if you have anything you'd like to let me know, any ways I can improve or anything. Links to all of my social media will be in the description of the video below. You can send me a message on any of those and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But be warned that I don't use Facebook as often as I use Twitter or Gmail. If you decide to send in a story to help me out, please be sure to include what the name of the story is if it has one, how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in, and the theme of the story if it has any. Please be sure that it's easy to read and has relatively appropriate grammar, but other than that, pretty much I'll accept anything. Huge thanks to my artist friend Alan, who is doing all my art for this channel and the other channel, so be sure to check him out. I think he does commissions and he does a lot of cool horror stuff, so you might be able to get some good things out of him. If you're curious about the music used in this video, it's in the description in the order it appears, as always, with links to the artist, and I think that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.